Hey, welcome to BSB TV. I'm Kevin Gammy. Today I've got with me, and don't you hate things that aren't quite mirrors, I've got with me Declan Kluver. Now, have I pronounced that correctly, Declan?
Correct, yeah.
Excellent. So we've got Declan Kluver. Now, Declan has a business called Blended Recruitment. So why Blended Recruitment?
Blended Employment came from, we had a corporate juice business when we were younger, and that business fizzled out. So I thought when I got into recruitment that we'd carry the name on, and now we've also got Blended Interiors and Design as well. So they're an architectural business that we run that my partner heads up.
Excellent. So Blended's taking over the world piece by piece. Blended Recruitment. So why is recruitment such a big issue?
I think because it's been around for a long time, everyone's had different experiences from both the candidate side and also the client side. So there can be a bit of a stigma in that regard. But finding good people has just always been tricky. Every business suffers with it, no matter what country you're in, where you're at, whether you're big or large. It's always hard to find good people. And if it's not your focus, then how do you know who's exactly out there every time?
Absolutely. Now, Declan knows I've got a little bit of experience in recruitment. I've got about 20 years. So I know how tough this industry really can be. And I do stick up for recruiters time and time again, I've got to say, even though I've left the industry. One of the challenges about recruitment is everybody thinks that they can do it, yeah?
Correct.
And yet we can all do our own tax return too.
Yeah, but
True story. So, if you actually realise that, hey, I can do my tax return, but I go to an accountant to do that because I trust that they know the tricks and tips and stuff that are going to, help me avoid, getting fined or landing in jail. And if you also therefore carry on that your staff, as you build your business, the team that you build is actually the greatest asset of that business, why would you try and skimp out and save costs in trying to acquire that team?
Some would say the risk.
But you get where I'm coming from, right? So the reality is, why would you skimp out and do it yourself instead of getting an expert to help you with, rather than, like you do with your taxes, just go straight to the expert and get them to help you?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the value proposition that I'm going to put out there. It's even more important today to surround yourself with the right team. There's lots of there's always someone predicting doom and gloom just around the corner. And if at any point in time they're right, the quality of our team is what's going to make our business or break our business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important that from that perspective, we're relying on experts such as yourself, Declan, to help us get the best possible team on board today so that we can ride that wave and we can make sure that we're overcoming any obstacles that are in our path.
Yep.
And that's my basic sales pitch. So today we're actually going to teach people about what you do with your recruitment exercise.
Yeah, perfect. So do you just want to start from the beginning?
So basically, at the very first start, so we're having a chat with our client. What are some of the things that you're looking for in that initial briefing from your client?
Yeah, so the most critical part is understanding your client in full, because if you don't cover all areas, and I mean the history of the business, where they're going next, what their plans are, what their staff turnover's like, whether what management's like, who's actually the leader of the business. It may not just be management. There may be influential salespeople within the team that can influence decisions. So it's really trying to get all areas of the business covered and who does what. So then you can that's going to benefit you in the long run by understanding every intricate piece. If you just sort of get a job brief, it's not enough. So it's being able to understand the business to its core. And then once you understand the business and where they're at and what they want to achieve, then that's when we can move on to finding the person. But unless you've got everything covered, and really we talk about being an extension of their business. So any client that we have, we should be able to repeat back to them everything there is to know about their business, and sometimes probably more. You've got to be that engaged and that passionate about wanting to know their client before you can recruit for them.
So really, in that background section, you're really looking at the business, the purpose of the business and what they see their business purpose is, where they're going in the future. You want to understand some of the mistakes that they've made in the past and what they've done to rectify that. You want to look at the leadership structure of the business. It really is a complete analysis of the business so that we can make sure you can help clients ensure that they're minimizing the risk of making the same mistake again if this role's a replacement role. Yeah.
Correct. And even sometimes it's been better to, like, and maybe from being in business myself, I can understand this better, but you can even see problems that are going to occur before you even recruit the role. So it's like, hey, we need to get these things fixed. We need to focus on these areas because I don't want you spending money with me and then, it falling over and both of us aren't happy. So that's why it's important to look at it from their perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So and having that third party viewpoint at that point in time can actually help people, can save people getting a wrong hire, which is really expensive. When you think about, and particularly in small business, and since we've got small business here, and this is what we're focused on, many of our members are, have from, it could be the first person they're recruiting, or it could be, anyone up to the 20th, but the majority of our members are sitting between that. There's just them, and then this is their first recruit, or up to their fifth recruit. That would be 90% of our members straight up. Yeah. Okay. So when we're thinking about recruiting in that zone, it is so much more critical that we make the right decisions. That very first person that you get for your business, that's doubling the capability of your business. It's adding you, it's adding the next person. And in relation to doing that, if you're cutting corners, then, and you just, not treating it blasé, but you're just brushing over, oh, I know what I want, you'll fall to the myth that everybody looks awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's a really easy thing to do. I know I did that even as a recruiter. Even when I had a staff of 15, I would still go, when I talked to, they were awesome, and I wouldn't use the best recruitment practice on my own business. So having a complete business background and understanding where they've been, where they're going, what the purpose, how this role fits into the organization, the leadership that they're going to be working for, so that then you can start building up a sales pitch for prospects as they're coming along. Yeah.
Yeah. And even understanding the onboarding process, because that could be broken. That's a very critical part of the business. You've got the opportunity to lay your rules, routines and standards, expectations. Like, that's a very important part for making sure everything runs smoothly, and I think that's where that's what's so important, and that's why with a recruiter they can actually understand that, relate that to the candidate before they even show up to an interview.
And absolutely, but we'll come back to the onboarding process later on, because I know that's much further down in your process. After you've understood the business, what's the next thing you want to understand?
Is the role, because we need to understand the business, then we need to understand the role, and then we can get to the candidate. So understanding the role in detail, because we recruit salespeople, so understanding what the KPIs are, who they're reporting to, what are the expectations of the role, how quick they need to have sales returns, what are their activities each day, what are products and services they're going to be selling with that, what industry, what key decision makers they need to be dealing with. Everything is across the board within usually business development roles, sales positions are what we specialize in. So those areas of the position are most important.
Yeah, cool. So when we're starting to understand the role, it's not just hey, what does this person do? It's really understanding what's the purpose of this role and how does that fit into the overall business model.
Yeah.
What are the development opportunities of both the role and for this person, which also comes into that sales pitch for the right person. Yeah. So what skills are needed and what we can teach someone while they're on the job. Yeah. And getting I used to recruit accountants, and I was forever getting really, really frustrated that an accounting firm would say, oh, but they have to have this system. Well, if they're already doing zero, they can learn MyOb in 2 weeks' time, across 2 weeks, and then for the rest of the life they're with the business, they're going to be awesome. So
Mhm.
don't focus on the wrong things. That's a really
Yeah.
important and I'm sure you get frustrated with that from time to time with clients as well.
I always push, especially in sales or I think any role, the soft skills are so important these days. It's like passion, accountability are two major factors that we always look for. And because if you've got the passion to learn, you've got the passion to sell, you've got the passion to, just immerse yourself in the company, then you're always going to succeed regardless of what systems you've used or how long you've been in the industry or anything like that.
And that's where it's so important to understand the company, because that's the stuff that the candidate's going to get excited about, yeah?
Yeah,
Because
correct.
you're selling the company and the candidate's going, this is exactly what I want. Then when some of the stuff that comes up about the role, they go, oh, that wasn't ideal, but hey, to buy into this and to help with the vision that this is happening, that's awesome. I want to work for this company. And then that's a really exciting opportunity for that candidate, yeah?
Yeah, like I had a candidate, she had was really strong in construction, had no interest in flooring, but she met the company and just loved them. Like just loved the leadership team and yeah, all of a sudden she was passionate about that. It wasn't the product, but she ended up doing really well.
And so here's the importance of understanding both the background of the business and the job and what it can lead to and what is already there, rather than just talking about what the job does.
Correct.
Yeah. So once you've actually understood the business and the job, what's the next thing that you do?
The business, the job, then it's the person. Being able to find the exact person that that you need to find, and it's not always going to be so specific, especially in sales. Like people can change industry, all the time. I suppose that might be similar to commercial accountants as well. So it's really understanding the person, their soft skills, and then also their hard skills as well.
Absolutely. Now, when you're talking about soft skills, you mean stuff like their personality and their ambitions and how they relate to people and that sort of stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. And the hard skills you're talking about, what are they?
So that's like years, like tangible experience, stuff that can be written down on paper. So that's your years of experience in the industry, qualifications, businesses they've dealt with, key achievements, stuff that you can tangibly see. You can't put passion on a bit of paper.
Fantastic. So now that we've understood the business and where it's going, where it's been, where it's going, we understand the job, why it's there, and what opportunities are there. And we understand the person that they're looking for, who's going to fit with this company and its long-term vision. What do we do then?
Then it's about getting you've got a clear understanding, then you've got to get the job out to the market. So there's a range of different ways in which we do that. So it's, given how hard it is to find people these days, putting an ad on Seek, it doesn't always yield a result. So we also network within the office. So, we share it with our colleagues. So everyone is across all the roles that we have on board. We also use our own database to source people from. We have access to obviously unlimited LinkedIn and Seek database as well. So we can proactively reach out to people. Also, creating a good relationships with candidates and using them as referrals, because obviously they have friends in the industry, they know who's good, or they might have worked somewhere where they had a past colleague. They're usually the 5 ways in which we find people from.
Fantastic. And really, it's a data collection exercise to start with of how big a pool can we explore, because the larger that pool, the more people that are going to fit that job will be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and that's really important. Not to rush that process for people that are recruiting. Yes, we need to fill the job urgently, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we're absolutely getting the right person for the job. And that doesn't mean we have to be so specific that nobody is good for the job. But it does mean that we have to have absolute. Here's the bottom line that I absolutely need in the job, and everyone that passes that could fit as long as they're the right person for our company and the long-term future. And that's a really important thing, that we maintain that little bit of flexibility there. So now that we've done the data collection and that we've got a long list of candidates, what are we going to do?
Then first thing is reviewing their CVs. So then we narrow it down out of that large list. and then we have a phone call conversation with them. So it's a bit of a discovery call. It usually lasts for about 25 minutes, and we go through their background, why they're looking, where things are at for themselves, and just try and build up some rapport with them, because it's very important. Like, nothing's worse than when someone's trying to sell themselves to you. You want to understand, even the companies, it's the same point of view with the companies. You need, like, I almost call myself, I'm a lie detector, because you need to understand everyone's point of view very honestly, so then you can best match everyone. So that's why we try to really, take a nonchalant approach, very relaxed, and build up as much rapport with candidates as well, because that's when you see their true colours. And most people are good people. Like, there's nothing that, like lying on CVs and stuff, I've only sort of come across it once. So that's why it's very important to be able to build up that rapport, have that good phone call conversation, and then they're calm when they come in for our interview. And that's where we, ask all the nitty-gritty questions, and it's smooth sailing. But if someone's nervous and built up, you're not going to get the best out of them, and then they're not going to do well. You're going to feel a bit like, I thought they were better, and they're not going to present themselves well to the client. So making sure it's a calm situation for everyone is paramount in making sure it's a good interview process and you get the best out of people.
So I used to ask people what they wanted to do when they grow up, and I would ask that to a 55-year-old guy, and I'd ask that to a 19-year-old school leaver as well. And it was really interesting, the different answers that you get. So often people would come back to me and say, "I want to be a fireman," or "I want to be whatever," right?
Yeah.
And that was because we could start just having a bit of a joke and a bit of a chat about stuff. So it's really important to start finding out at that discovery stage, what are the drivers of this person, and that's a really good thing that you do there. So now that you've got that, I imagine you've done the analysis on the CVs, you've looked at how their background fits and could potentially fit with the organisation. At the same time, then you've had a phone conversation with a lot of those candidates. You've brought it down. You're now interviewing just a few of those candidates to help understand that. So what you've done here is you've knocked a whole lot of people off the list even before you're thinking about who you might even potentially be sending to a client.
Yeah, so we usually only send between 3 and 5 CVs to a client or a candidate profile. So we don't, if we're sending any more than that, then we're not understanding the brief, we're not understanding what our client's after.
Absolutely, and it's really important that we start that we help business owners be thinking about. This is and this is, as a recruiter, when I was recruiting for myself, this is the thing that I didn't do well. I wasn't having a list of 50 people or 30 people or 20 people and bringing that down to 3 or 4 or 5 people and then interviewing those 3 or 4 or 5, because I was doing it all myself. And so I was bringing people in and everyone was perfect because they were all lovely, lovely people. And that was a mistake that I made, right?
And you made good in people as well.
What's that?
Maybe you're just also seeing good in people as well.
I do. I live in hope, not in fear. And living in hope, you imagine how everything can go right. You're not looking at what could go wrong. Okay. Yeah. So, and we need to have a balanced approach about that. So then you're actually interviewing the candidates, you're working out, and you're constantly referring back to what the client's looking for, both long-term and short-term. So then you can present that shortlist to the client. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you also then help set the client up with how they can interview better and how they can look for the right things?
Yeah, definitely. So especially, it depends how, it depends. They could be a new manager. Like, they may have just moved up from a BDM and now they're a sales manager. They may never have hired anyone in the past. So that's why even sometimes I'll sit in on the interviews with our clients. So we can prepare questions, and they're going to be different questions than I would ask. Obviously, yes, because they're going to be more from a company focus, more from an industry focus. We ask, we have general questions, and we have more specific questions about the role. So that's why sometimes it can be important to actually work with your clients. Be like, hey, have you actually done this before? Because sometimes, sometimes people haven't, and then they get in an interview and they don't even know what works or what doesn't, or how to make an interview flow. It can get quite awkward. So,
and the other thing that you were finding out right at the very start was, hey, what is the history of this organisation in terms of staff? Do they have a high staff turnover? Does everyone stay there forever? Are they happy with the productivity of the people they've got? So that then you can start helping and making sure that they're covering off on the right stuff so that they're knocking out the wrong people.
Yeah.
Excellent. So at that stage, you've selected a shortlist, you've sent it through to the client, you've helped them organise the interviews, they've conducted their interviews. You've also, I would imagine, prepared the candidates because you've fully briefed them on all the stuff that you know about the business.
Yeah, like I used to do like a lot of it's called candidate coaching, where you give them a lot of information, and it's like, this, that, like that's what I did a lot in when I first started in my career. And I've sort of steered away from that. Like I tell them about the role, the company, but I wouldn't tell them like what interview questions are going to get asked. I wouldn't tell because I felt, and because sometimes it wouldn't work out that way, because they would know all the answers. They tell the client what they want to hear. The client's like only seeing the good in them, and they're from a recruiter, so they must be perfect. But all I've done is really just skilled this person up and give them the cheat sheets to the test, and they've gone in and aced the test, and the client loves them. So I've sort of, when I started my own business, I refrained from doing that, because I want people to go in and then put them forward, because just because I tell them that to send a follow-up email, to do this, to do that, like it's not their common instinct. And then they go and their client thinks, oh, if they did it for me, they're going to do it. Because you look at a sales process is very similar to an interview process. And then if they're not doing it, if they do it with us, but they've only done it because I told them, I'm not going to be there with them to tell them to do it when they do it with a client, if they don't do it naturally. So I've sort of refrained from putting my two bobs there all the time, because and I think you just end up picking better candidates, because then you're not having to coach them as well. So,
absolutely. And there's no absolute wrongs or rights here, and that's a great strategy, particularly with the fact that you do a lot of salespeople, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. So salespeople should be able to follow a sales process, and a recruitment job interview is a sales process to get the client to buy you. So it's great in that situation. In other situations, I've actually had clients say, hey, we're going to ask them A, B, and C. Could you prep the candidate about that? Right.
Yeah.
So the candidate there's no absolute right or wrong. If you feel you want candidates to be ready to answer these questions, tell them what you're going to ask. If you don't. And some people have more organic interview. Others will have a highly structured interview. An organic interview is okay if you follow the same process every single time. Have a checklist that you've covered these different issues, so that you are comparing apples with your candidates. That's for the people doing the interviewing. Cool. Post-interview, what happens then?
So we arrange the interview, so we'll book their interviews in, do all of that, and then we get feedback from both parties after the interview's taken place, and then we relay that information to each other on whether they're successful or not. And then, it's really, and it's also an education piece with clients, because it's so easy for clients just to go, not interested, and you're like, why? Like, why are we, and just tell them, mate, we went to someone else. And, that's where it's also educating clients that, hey, let's look at the bigger picture here. You want to make sure, even though they didn't get the job, like the world's a small place, you want to make sure that they get some good information that they can build on the next one, and then they're not going to think ill of your business. They just it's just a job opportunity they missed out on, instead of just, down to the final two and missed out. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? So
I made the mistake of one day telling a candidate that, oh, mate, you were so close and you came second. He goes, can I have the silver medal? And I said, there is no silver medal. And he goes, then why did you bother telling me I came second? It really doesn't matter. I didn't get the job. That's all you had to tell me.
Yeah.
So, really important thing. So if you're recruiting, and remember, we're talking people about, hey, when they're talking to candidates, don't be scared to talk to candidates that have missed out on the job. They may ask you why. All they're trying to find out is how can they improve their performance next time. So help them out with it. Really good scenario there. The other thing that I guess you're doing that is really hard for the client to do is you're actually judging how excited different candidates are about the job when they come out of that interview.
Yeah, big time. Like, do they call you back straight away? hey, Declan, just got out, had a great meeting with Phil. Look, really, really enjoyed this conversation. I'm super keen. Or is it, someone doesn't have a job at the moment and they're not even calling you back and you're trying to chase them, they're not that interested. So that's when you get that sort of inside scoop.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. How quickly they call you back, absolutely. That'll tell you how excited they are. The second thing, how much the money, if that's changed from when we interviewed them the first time to after this interview, if all of a sudden they're asking for a whole lot more money, that's telling us they're probably not that excited about the job, but hey, they could be rented by the hour for a little bit more, right? So we need, as a recruiter, you're getting a third-party insight into a whole lot of stuff that the company really can't judge.
Yeah, and the candidate's going to, because you build up such good rapport with them, they're going to tell you stuff that they would never tell their new boss.
Absolutely. So that's another cool tip about where you're using a recruiter and how that can be helpful. At that stage, the client decides that they're going to offer the job to Mary, and so you'll start talking to Mary and negotiating when she can start and the salary and all that sort of stuff, and make sure that it's a fair scenario for both parties. Yeah.
Yep.
Any particular tricks that if somebody was doing that direct that they need to be looking out for
when it comes to offering someone a job?
Yeah.
I would confirm salary first instead of going away and thinking it's a done deal and doing up the contract and, doing all that. I'd do references and then contract pending references come back good. I would, confirm the salary, verbally confirm everything first before you go away and spend your time, writing up a new contract for someone and sending it off. And then, they don't like something in the contract. I'll just reconfirm everything that's spoken about in the first interview and the second interview you've had together.
Absolutely. And if people are watching this video and they're using it to learn how to recruit, a really important thing to do, don't go, every referee is going to speak perfectly to someone, I'm not going to bother doing reference checks. Do 2 to 3 reference checks. Listen for what people don't say as much as what they do. Okay? You do need to be reading code into what people are saying, because of course every referee is going to speak highly of the person, but then be listening for how long it takes them to answer a question. Be listening for is this person really in love and wishes this person came back to them, or were they glad to see the back of them even though they may have thought they did a great job? Were they really a team player? And get examples from the client about that. So interview their previous employer as almost as much as you interview the candidate is a really cool thing to do to make sure that the person's everything they said they were.
Yeah, and I understand everyone's busy, but also look at how hard it is to get onto the referee. Because, if I say I left the company and I put forward my reference, I'm sure that they would answer straight away. Like, everyone's busy, but no one's that busy. And if you've got to chase someone for 3 days, the candidate obviously doesn't have a good relationship with the previous manager.
Yeah, and that's it. And that could point to how they finished up with the business and all that sort of stuff. So, really important issues there. And then we come back to the onboarding process, and we've gone way too long, but really quickly, you should have a solid onboarding process and how you're going to immerse this new person into the culture of your business and understanding just how stuff works around here.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up at the start, because that's what I've learned to implement in our process. I know you said to talk about it at the end, but that's so critical at explaining the onboarding process, what happens, what their first 3 months are going to look like, what their expectations are. Everything is done at the start, because when it gets to the end and people don't know, like, it could be basic things like, you have to be in the office every day. A salesperson be like, well, I'm external, I don't want to be in the office every day. Oh, but that's what we do here. We thought, so something like that could be a deal breaker at the end. So you don't want any surprises. So that's why I always talk about it at the beginning when I'm talking about the company. So that's how come I sort of do it that way. But it's, each of them.
I was absolutely, you did the research back when you did, but I just want to remind people at the end that it's their job to then do that.
Yeah, it's so critical. Like, even little things like making sure if you've got uniforms, business cards, all that stuff's done beforehand. It's not like they're waiting a month or they wait till they get their first sale until they can have their business cards. Like, it feels horrible. It's a partnership, and you want to make sure it's a special time, so then they can feel, this has been a good good move.
Absolutely. And that's a really, really thorough process. I'm sure Declan has some documentation he normally sends to clients, but if you reach out to him, I'm sure that he'd be happy to share some with you. And I surprised him with this, so he might be rushing around this afternoon together.
Yeah.
I'll have a chat with you, Declan, about how we can get that out to people who are interested in it in some really cool ways, and how people that miss the show live can still get that further down the track, which would be absolutely awesome. So thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks very much, and I appreciate what you're doing for the small business community, especially over these last few months. It's been testing.
It's been pretty epic, I've got to say. Look, my goal is purely to make Brisbane the small business capital of Australia, okay? Yeah. I want to help small business in Brisbane get up, get moving, get on with it, get more business with each other and helping each other. And that's truly what I'm passionate about. So thank you very much for noticing. This will actually form part of our BSB TV, which is down on YouTube as well, and everything else, as well as being on our business portal, and I'll help you get set up there a little later on. Thanks so much from sharing so honestly and so openly with the gang.
Appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thanks, mate. Now we'll just have that awkward 2 minutes of silence while we